I like to be pleasantly surprised by the movies, and I really like to be pleasantly surprised by movies that people recommend to me. So today we're going to talk about a movie that was never on my radar until really, honestly, a couple days ago. Had no idea it even existed, and that is the movie Deadstream. It's a found footage horror film from the year 2022. Let's talk about it and what I thought. Thank you so much for checking out the video. Before we get started, click on the subscribe button and notification bell. That way you know when I post new content. You can also follow me on Rumble, Instagram, and X. I'm on all those platforms. You can find me there. So I was present for the original, all of the hubbub and hullabaloo over the original found footage horror movie, The Blair Witch Project. At the time, the internet was still very much in its infancy, so people didn't really know if this thing was true, was it fake, and there was a ton of hype around this movie. I remember exactly where I was and who I watched it with, and it was like this really interesting kind of pop culture phenomenon at the time. And since then, we've had a ton of these types of movies. We've had slasher films, we've had possession movies, we've had body horror, we've had pretty much like the gamut. We've had like occult movies. We even had a movie about like Chernobyl that was found footage. And these movies have like really varied in terms of quality, and it's hard to do right. Just very recently, I reviewed a point of view focused movie called War of the Worlds, and it was complete and utter dog shit. There's no way around that point. It's one of the very worst movies I've ever seen. And so now you have kind of the opposite. You have a really good version of that type of movie where the framing device is built around this guy who's trying to redeem himself and his streaming channel because he got himself into trouble and is really trying to like make right with the world and his audience and of course his advertisers so he can start making money again after a year off or 6 months off. And so we get to learn like what exactly happened to this guy and why he's in this particular predicament, why he's basically decided to go to this very spooky haunted house in the middle of nowhere and isolate himself and spend the entire night there in order to get the advertisers back and have a bunch of people watch his channel and basically like get himself back where he needs to be from a career standpoint. So our hero Sean finds himself in this house. He barricades himself inside, throws away his car keys, throws away the spark plugs from his engine, and is like fully embracing this this like kind of final shot that he has to make things right. I love the way this movie is framed, and as somebody, you are watching this on a YouTube channel, you're watching it on YouTube, Rumble, or X. I'm very familiar with all of kind of the tips and tricks of how these things are done. Yes, my channel is specifically just one thing. I'm not a streamer, but I am familiar with many of them. I get like the references to the chat, and I get camera angles and lighting and all that stuff. And the movie really like nails that aspect of it. If you're going to do a movie with an interesting premise, especially one that's essentially found footage, you have to be able to do it right because people who are familiar with that world will know when you're getting it wrong. So the movie implements all of those things I've talked about, like cool, interesting camera angles. He has like multiple GoPros that he's setting up around this house, and he's explaining kind of like the history of what happened. And all of that is kind of rolled out directly for us, both by him and by members of his chat. Like they managed to implement that aspect of it into the film in like a real and tangible and legitimate way. And I think that's really smart, and you're not going to pull the wool over anybody's eyes who actually knows how this stuff really does work. Is it perfect? No. He's essentially working on like a knockoff version of YouTube, even though YouTube is actually name dropped in the movie. He talks about, wanting to make sure his channel gets remonetized, and he has his like blanket dumb nonsense apology that nobody actually believes about what he did to get in trouble in the first place. And this movie is like scary and funny, and I think it really deftly tackles that. It also starts off really well we get really like a good halfway through this movie before like jump scares and things really start to accelerate for Sean. And I think that movie is smart in how it lays that out. The pacing is kind of right on the money in that regard. This movie also knows when to end itself and when to wrap things up, and it does a good job of making sure that it's not wearing out its welcome. So I like this movie. I think Deadstream is great. Let me know what you think in the comments. Thank you so much for watching this review. I was pleasantly surprised by this one, and I will see you next Saturday at 9 a.m.